feel like we're taught this perfect magical fairy tale as a kid, and we think love at first sight, and we're just going to meet the perfect person immediately. Well, it doesn't always work out like that. But I'm going to share my little story with love with Brian and how I knew he was the one. I'm Juli Bauer Roth, the food, fitness, and lifestyle blogger behind PaleOMG. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to share my favorite food, workout, and wellness tips to help you live your best damn life. And today we're talking love. I've now been with my husband for over 10 years. 10 years. 10 years we've been together, going on 11, and we've been married almost 7 now. And it was a bumpy road. It was all over the place. And so today I wanted to share that little story because I feel like we're often taught that, we're going to have this perfect love story and everything's going to be so great. And it's not always like that, but that doesn't mean that that person isn't for you. And so I wanted to share our story and why I knew Brian was the one, how I knew. So let's first take it back to 2011. I met Brian at my CrossFit gym. I was coaching and he came in. I thought he was a beautiful man, but he didn't smile that much. And so I was like, well, when you see a guy who kind of has this angry face and you're like, okay, you think you're hot shit type thing. Well, I didn't want to be into a guy who thought he was super fucking cool. So I didn't think anything of it. And I was his coach, so I kept it professional. Just kidding. I did not keep it professional usually, but I just didn't ever think about dating him. So I coached him, but what I did notice is that whenever I coached him in class, he would always laugh at my jokes because I always made jokes while I was coaching and nobody would laugh, thanks. And he always did. And I thought that was interesting. Well, one of our mutual friends named Tommy, he invited me onto his kickball team because he thought, well, Julie's a great athlete in the gym. She's obviously going to be good at sports. No, I am so bad at sports. But to me, when he invited me, I said, well, I should say yes because Tommy's good looking. He's going to have hot friends. I want to meet hot friends. So I joined his kickball league. And Brian was on the team because they were close friends. And Brian immediately saw how bad I was at kickball. And he said, how about you stay after the game and we'll practice your kick. And I was practicing this so CrossFit thing where I would go into a handstand and try to catch the ball with my legs, trying to look cool in front of him doing handstands. So we were on the kickball team and one of our other mutual friends was like, Juli, did you know Brian looks at your blog every day? And this was the early days of PaleOMG. So I had started my blog in 2011 and I met Brian around 2012. So it was early on in my blog days. And my friend told me, he's like, yeah, he reads all of your blog posts. And I thought that was so interesting because this guy never talked to me. He didn't make much eye contact at the gym. So I was like, what? He reads my blog? That's so weird. Well, immediately I was like, hey, what's up? If you like my blog. So this is what I did. We didn't have each other's numbers. Facebook back then, was all the rage. I haven't logged into Facebook in probably 3 years now, but back then it was all the rage. So what did I do? I slid into his DMs. First, I looked all over his photos, of course, obviously. What else would you do? And there's a really pretty girl. Found out it was his sister, Phew. And then it didn't have any other photos with another girl. So I was like, okay. So I slid into his DMs, slid into those Facebook messages and asked him if he wanted to grab a drink after the next, what game do I play? Oh, kickball. See, I can't even remember a sport. So I asked him for a drink and he thinks I remember this wrong. We probably have proof and I could go back, but I'd have to log in and I don't remember my password. But he was like, yeah, I'll invite everybody after the game. I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. But I was like, okay. So then we go grab a drink afterwards with people from the league. And I was like, well, this is not a way to get him to like me. But at that same moment, I had a birthday coming up. I invited him to my birthday because we were just hanging out in the park. And he was like, oh, I'll try to make it. And he worked all the time, but I didn't really know at that point. He worked constantly. So I have this park day, and then I'm a person who doesn't really drink and doesn't really party because I was competing in CrossFit. So I left my own party early. I was like, I'm going to leave. And he comes to the park and I'm already gone. So I kind of ghosted him. But I had CrossFit Regionals coming up. And so he came to CrossFit Regionals, which was in May 2012, and he watched me compete. And that was the first, like, oh, okay, I think this guy might actually like me. But I didn't really know. It was just so hard to tell. He definitely keeps things inside. It's very hard when you're an extrovert like me and shares everything and word vomits all day long. So I had no idea if he really liked me, because he would talk to me and we would hang out, and then he just didn't seem to want to call this a relationship. And so we went through this on and off relationship all the time. It was so exhausting, where I would want to be in more of a relationship, like call it a relationship. And he's like, why do we need to call it anything? He didn't want to call it anything. I was like, because I don't want to just be doing nothing. Like, I am looking to spend my time with someone, and to call this a relationship and know that I'm committed to this person. So we had lots of breakups and makeups and breakups and makeups. And finally I ended things and I was like, you spend more time with your friends, and so why wouldn't I want to be your friend? Because Brian is a ride or die with his friends. He will do anything for his friends. I'm like, I want to be your friend because I want to hang out with you all the time, and you haven't made as much time for me as you have for other people. And I know this makes him sound bad, but he was just trying to navigate this new feeling of being in love with someone too. So we went on different trips together. I went to a destination wedding with him where one of his friends was telling me how he said he saw himself marrying me. And I was like, wait, what? He won't even really call this a relationship, and he sees that? I'm so confused. And I finally had to end things with him because it didn't feel like anything was happening, even though I was hearing these things. And I said, I'm going to go date somebody else. And so I dated other people, and throughout dating other people in this short amount of time, all I could think about was him. He was the only person I thought about at any of those moments. I thought about how I wish I was sitting across the table when I was out to eat with somebody else. Like, I constantly thought about him. And something he did, which I think he hates when I tell this story, I won't tell the full story because it's just our little thing together. But when he was trying to get back together with me and I said no, he left a note on my car, and it was winter, so he wrapped it up in a plastic bag and put it on my car before I even got out to my car that morning. And it was just this little love note. And that was that moment that I was like, I'm gonna try to make this work. I can't envision being in a relationship with anybody else, but I wanted to make sure this was the right thing for both of us. And so I know this sounds silly to some people, but I told him to write out a pros and cons list of our relationship, the pros, the cons, and I would do the same. And then we could come together and compare. And I still remember sitting on his bed in his house that he lived with friends back in the day, and going over that pros and cons list and seeing what lined up. And that was really, I think, a great moment that I don't know if he even remembers, but to me, it was that first moment of big communication in our relationship. And if you are in a committed relationship, you know how much communication matters. It matters so much. And that was the first time that we really opened the line of communication of, this is working, this is lacking, this is what's not working, this is what's hard, this was what's beautiful. And we talked through all of those things. And that was that moment that I said, okay, I'm going in. I want to make this work. And we moved in together not long after that. We got an apartment together. We moved in, and then we lived with each other for probably, I bet it was 9 months, maybe. And then he ended up proposing, and it was such an incredible proposal. I mean, it was a proposal and an engagement party in one. But this bumpy road that we had in the beginning of our relationship of being together, breaking up, getting back together, trying to figure out if that person was the person for me, for him, what I always came back to and why I knew he was the one was he had the best heart. He was such a good person through and through. And the way I knew he was such a good person was he would always go back for his brother's football games. His brother's 14 years younger than him. And so he went back for his high school and for his college football games. And he even got a Southwest credit card. And so he could earn miles since he'd be going back to Omaha over and over and over. And his love for his brother showed through how much he cares for the people around him. Like I said before, he's a ride or die for his friends. He will do anything for them, but his family, I mean, he is so close to his brother, to his sister, to his mom. They're such a close family unit, and it showed me how much he deeply loves the people around him. And he keeps that circle close. He has a ton of friends, but he keeps that circle of who he cares about so deeply, so close, and he'll do anything for them. Seeing how big his heart was what really sold me on my love for Brian. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that love. I wanted to be part of his family. That was what really showed me that he was the one for me. And of course, we've had so many ups and downs in our relationship throughout, but at the end of the day, he has this gigantic heart. And when we look for a partner, I think we often have a list. I mean, and we don't write down the list, but we have those things in our head. It's going to be different for everybody, but maybe they are successful, whether it's financially successful or they're just successful in pushing themselves in whatever work that they do. They are kind, they are thoughtful, they are loving, they are any of these qualities we think of. I mean, anybody's going to have a completely different list than the next person. But when I tell my friends who are looking for partners or who are dating someone, I tell them, find someone with a good heart, because everybody has their negativity about them. I mean, I have so many things that I want to work on and am constantly working on, and Brian is the same way. But at the end of the day, he has a great heart and he will be there for the people that he loves the most. And that means when we go through struggles, he is there for me. That means when we have a child together for the first time and we don't know what the hell we're doing, he is there for both of us. And now I have a husband who is also a father, who is the greatest father I could have asked for. He is so deeply in love with Avery, and that is because he has an incredible heart. And that's how I knew he was the one. I dated plenty of people in the past who were great people too, but they just never had the same heart that I found with Brian. And we go through all kinds of different ups and downs, but his heart always shows through in everything he does, whether it's the work that he does, whether it's how he gives back to our community, whether it's how he calls our friends in times of need, whatever it is, he has the biggest heart. And I'm so lucky to be part of that and to be part of his heart now. But that's our little love story. What about yours? Do you have a moment that you knew your partner, your spouse was the one? Did you have that aha moment? I can't say that I had an aha moment, but it was many moments over time that really added up. I know some people meet their spouse and it's love at first sight. I definitely didn't have that, but I want to hear from you. What was your story with your partner or spouse? How did you know that they were the one? What was that special moment, that special piece of them that really made them shine above anybody else you had been with? Let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, a little storytelling, I have more that I think you're going to like coming up.